Hello everyone, this is Dr. Edward Padama and welcome back. This time we are going to discuss another topic related to research writing, and this is about the 10 common mistakes made during your research defense. So this topic affects everyone writing their research paper, whether you're in the basic education, in the tertiary or the college level, or even in the graduate school. This would definitely help you not only gain confidence but also to be able to prepare and be able to adapt to these particular hindrances or barriers that you would be facing during your defense. So before we go on to our discussion for today, please subscribe to my YouTube channel at Toket Padama and do click that notification bell to alert you when a new video is uploaded. And also, I have my TikTok account where short video discussions are uploaded related to research writing and other issues related to your research writing process. So please follow my TikTok account. Let us start with our topic for today. The first one is being unprepared. So obviously, this is a big no-no in uh, uh, in the process of defending your research. You are not supposed to face your panel during defense if you are not prepared, because I always use this quotation wherein I tell my students that you cannot give what you do not have, meaning you will not be able to answer the questions given to you by the panel if you did not prepare. So how do you prepare? Specifically, I have divided this into three areas. Being unprepared in terms of being unfamiliar with the content of your research. Your manuscript is the center of your research defense. The reason why you are there is because the panel would like to assess and evaluate your knowledge of your manuscript. Again, the manuscript is the printout, the copy of your research that includes the content until the result of your research. So make sure that you are familiar with every part of your research paper, from the cover page up to the last part of your research paper. So uh, you are already familiar with these parts. So make sure you review them, make sure you simulate them, make sure you face a mirror and um, try to simulate if you are already in front of the panel, how you would be able to answer them. Try to ask yourselves questions and then practice answering these questions in front of a mirror. Okay? So the second one is being unfamiliar with the protocol and procedures of the defense. So there are schools that set up protocols wherein you are given a specific time, a specific duration or period of time for you to be able to introduce yourself, and a specific time to present your paper, and so on and so forth. Make sure that you are familiar with this, and not only that, make sure that you observe all of this protocol and procedures before you face your panel during your research defense, so that you would not be going from one direction to another direction. Okay? The next one is being unfamiliar with the format and mechanics. The format and mechanics of your manuscript. So make sure that every part, every area of your research is already familiar with you. If possible, you are already familiar with the page number where that particular part of your research can be found. So, for example, if your panel asks you, who are the respondents and how did you choose your respondents? Immediately, even without opening your manuscript, you are already familiar and aware where to open your manuscript, your research, and then eventually try to guide the panel on the answers that they are asking. Okay? So, the wrong way of doing this is when the panel asks you for that particular question regarding the respondents, and they see you going like this. And what is worse is that you cannot find the part where you are supposed to find the answers for that particular question, and you keep on looking and looking, and eventually you would be at lost in that particular question of the panel. So make sure you are familiar with the specific areas and parts of your research paper, and this will fall under the format and mechanics of your research paper. That's why this part of the research is usually discussed in the initial part of the class, in the beginning of the class. The format, the outline of the research paper is already given to the students. Number two, incomplete, disorganized presentation with regard to your PowerPoint presentation that you are using. So usually you are given, as I said earlier, a specific time to present your research or your study. So make sure that you maximize that time and organize your presentation. Not only organize your presentation, but to make sure that your presentation is complete and in order. Okay? So there are presentations or there are schools that only require you to present the title of your research, the background of your research, the SOP, the literature, and then eventually skipping and going directly to the last chapter, which is what is the finding of your research, the conclusion of your research, and the recommendation of your research. So that would roughly take you approximately 5 to 10 minutes for the whole presentation. And then you make sure that it is in order. So you are not just supposed to be familiar with the content of your manuscript, but also the content of your PowerPoint presentation. So it's the same with your manuscript. Instead of opening it, when you present your PowerPoint and the panel asks you to go to the SOP part, you scroll over that particular part, and you do not even know, or you do not have an idea where that part is located in your PowerPoint presentation. So make sure you are familiar with the parts of your PowerPoint presentation. Make sure it is complete, not over complete, and not incomplete, to satisfy the inquiries of the panel. Okay, the third one, being arrogant and disrespectful to the panel. So this is with regard to the student or to the research writer. So again, part of your defense would be your personality. It would affect the grade or the overall assessment of your research defense if you do the opposite and be arrogant in answering questions. Okay? Arrogance in terms of where disrespect is already coming in when you use or when you speak during your defense. So, my advice is be humble. Okay? Humility is always a virtue that would be able to help you during defense. Stay humble during the defense, and hopefully, if you can do so, try to make it a practice being humble even after the defense. Okay? So, being humble involves keeping an open mind in terms of listening to the suggestion of the panel and trying to analyze if it is feasible to accept and adopt the recommendations of the panel. If not, then you try to express your thoughts on that particular recommendation. Okay? That is allowed. But the way you do it should be with humility. Okay? So, uh, humility with respect and with an open mind is highly recommended when defending your research. So that's number 3. Number 4, asking clarificatory questions. So there will be questions obviously given by the panel. If you did not understand what the panel said, you are allowed to ask them to please clarify the questions. They can even rephrase the question for you if you like, but make sure you listen carefully. Okay? So again, you are allowed to ask clarificatory questions regarding the question given to you by the panel, clarificatory question, to clarify the questions given to you by the panel. So if you did not understand, you can just say to the panel, can you please rephrase your question? Pardon me. So when you say pardon me, they will just repeat the question. But if you want, sir, can you please expound your question? Then then they would be able to either rephrase their question or give you example situations related to their question. Okay, so do not be afraid of asking clarificatory question, especially if you are not able to comprehend or understand the question given to you by the panel. Okay, again, just ask it with respect and with humility. The next one, number 5, is assuming that you know all the answers. Assuming that you know the answer. This is tricky. Okay? But for me, honesty will always be the best policy, even if it is already an overused quotation. Okay? Trying to bluff in a defense is very dangerous. Bluffing is trying to fake something that you do not have. If you do not have the answer, if you are not familiar with the answer, then by all means, my advice personally is that you lay it down on the table and tell the panel that, sir, I am sorry, but I am not familiar with that particular question. Okay? Instead of giving an answer that would eventually, by experience, bury you deeper. It would bury you deeper. So if you gave an answer to a question that you are not familiar with, and the answer that you gave is something that you are not familiar to, they would ask a follow-up question, and it would get you deeper and deeper into trouble. So prevention is always better than cure. Instead of putting yourself in the grave on that particular situation, you just prevent it by saying, sir, I am sorry, I am not familiar with that particular question. Okay? So that's number 5. The next one is beating around the bush. When the panel asks you questions, so try to listen. If the question is logical, which means it only requires you to answer yes or no, true or false, or try to give specific details on your research. Example is the number of respondents, which is discrete. How many respondents do you have? And then eventually, instead of giving them a specific number, you even discussed, sir, the respondents were taken during this time of the new normal, and because of this, they are not asking for the rationale or the justification why you chose the respondents. They are asking for the specific number of respondents. So you really need to listen carefully to the questions. If they are only asking for a specific answer or specific question that requires a specific answer, then by all means give it to them. But if they ask you, can you explain to us the process that you did during the collection of your data? That's the time you have to narrate, tell the story and the process of how you gathered the data. So listening is really crucial in this particular part of your research. That is why if you were not able to get the question, ask clarificatory questions. Or you can even ask the panel to, please, sir, can you repeat that again? Pardon me. Okay? So that would fall under number 6. Do not beat around the bush if you are not required to explain and justify or give the rationale of your answer. Okay, next, number 7. Giving answers not aligned to the question being asked. The question asked was this, and the answer that you gave is not congruent or aligned with the question given. The panel would immediately be able to identify if your answer was the answer that they are expecting, because the panel has already has an idea of what should be given in terms of giving answers even before they ask them. So make sure, again, going back to the listening skill, that you listen to the question of the panel so that when you give the answer, it would be directly addressing the question that they are asking. So there are a lot of instances where the question given by the panel does not coincide with the answer given by the student or the research writer. Okay? Next, number 8. Another common mistake is answering even before the panel finish asking the question. Answering before the panel even finish the question. This is very disrespectful. Okay? Let the panel finish the question, and then eventually you would be able to identify if the panel has already finished their questions, and then eventually that's the time that you give your answer. Okay, so again, make sure that you give the panel time to finish their question, because this is very dangerous. This is equivalent to assuming that you already know the answer even before the question is finished. And what is dangerous is when you give the answer and the answer that you give is not correct, then what would be the impression of the panel? It would go to the number 3, that you are being arrogant. The question has not yet been finished, and then you start answering, and the answer that you gave was not aligned to the question that they are asking. See, it's as simple as that. Okay, so again, it will boil down and go back again to your listening skill. Listen before you answer. Next, number 9. Talking too fast or talking too slow. There are panel or panelists. Remember, the panel are the experts that were invited to assess and evaluate your research. Every panel has their areas of specialization. So in our school, we have an expert panel in mathematics, for statistics. We have for content, for grammar, and so on and so forth. So usually we have 3 for the master's degree, and we have 5 for the doctorate degree. Now, most of the panelists would not be able to follow and comprehend your discussion and your presentation if you talk too slow or you talk too fast. Actually, if you talk too slow, they would be able to comprehend, but they would be irritated because it is already taking you too long to present a part of your research that would only take 1 minute or 2 minutes of your time. Okay, so please be mindful of this, be sensitive with this, and listen to their cues. Listen to the cues of the panel. If the panel, the panel already had an idea of what you are presenting, they will give you cues like, okay, next slide, go to this particular part of your research, and then again, you will have to move quickly and go to that particular part of your presentation. Okay? That's number 9. Number 10, failure to acknowledge recommendations and suggestions from the panel. So how do you acknowledge when recommendations and presentations that are valid and that you think you would be able to implement in your research, try to say thank you to the panel. Okay, not to compliment them, but to say thank you, because these suggestions and recommendations would again improve and add quality to the research paper that you are doing. So it is just right, that you give them things for those particular recommendations and suggestions that they have presented and given to you during your research defense. So basically, these are the 10 common mistakes and how you should address them during your research defense. So I hope this would be able to help you during your defense. And again, let me leave you with a quotation that I used earlier. You cannot give what you do not have. The only way to pass your defense is that if you are familiar with the content of your research. Every part of your research should be familiar with you. So you have to read them, you have to understand what they mean, and you have to make sure that you would be able to explain the relevance of your research title to the content of your research to the findings of your research. So thank you very much everyone for watching this video. And again, let me invite you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel at Doc and Padama and my TikTok account with the same name. And I hope to see you again in my next video regarding research writing. If you have any question regarding research writing, write it on the comment section, or if you have any video request that you would like me to do, write it on the comment section below this video and I will get back to you or even create that particular video. Thank you very much everyone. Stay safe and God bless. Bye.